Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Meditation and Spiritual Practice. It's really great to be with you all. It's also a pleasure to have Ruth and Sylvia from outside of Orange County tuning in from different parts of the country. And as we're just expanding and building our contemplative community, which we know that really time and space doesn't really operate so much in this world. It's all about connection. So I wanted to share a little bit with you all from Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, from his Kedushat Levi commentary on the Torah. He was a 19th century Hasidic master, incredibly, besides being an amazing teacher and leader, so dedicated to the Jewish people and such a fountain of compassion and understanding for the ways that we're imperfect and growing, and really just being able, his teaching really holds out a vision of being able to that exactly where we are in our own life and our own journey and our own growth is just right, and exactly where God wants us. So in his commentary, the piece I want to share with you this morning is about it really just plays on a verse from this week's parsha, from Parshat Vayetze, where Jacob he's already left. He's left Beersheba. He's had his dream, his amazing dream, which we talked about on Sunday morning at the JCC. And then he goes ahead and he sees a well in the field, and 3 flocks of sheep are resting at it. And there's a large stone that's covering the well. When all the flocks were gathered there, they rolled the stone off the mouth of the well, and then when Jacob saw Rachel, he approached and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well. So again, this is just a piece. This is where Jacob first sees Rachel and falls in love, and this, image of this big guy, all on his own. Everybody else, when they needed water from the well, there would be like 3 or 4 people that would have to move the stone off the well, but Jacob just, comes and brings it right off, and that's how he connects with Rachel. But of course, Levi Yitzchak wants to take this and read this in a way to talk about our inner life. And each part of this, the story in the Torah is symbolic. So the well, he says, is the flow of God's blessing. And that God's blessing is ever flowing, meaning that we look around us, we look inside of us, and there is just constant energy and shefa, which is divine flow, that is constantly, the Creator is radiating God's presence through everything. And the field, he says, refers to the field of the holy apples, the tapuchim kedushin, which is another, in Kabbalah, is another word to talk about the Shekhinah, or the divine presence of God, which is really also that when we talk about Shekhinah, the feminine presence of God, we're talking about those moments in which we are aware of God's blessing in the physical world, in what's around us. We were talking about having a beautiful walk this morning with the dogs in this beautiful Southern California, and that kind of feeling that divine blessing through the sun coming through the trees and through the birds chirping. That is a way of experiencing the Shekhinah, that aspect of God that is embodied in the world. And that there's an aspect of that also that's associated with great joy. So Jacob sees a well in the field, which in some sense he's experiencing the divine flow of blessing through Shekhinah. And the 3 flocks of sheep that are there, Rabbi Yitzchak says, refer to the 3 pilgrimage festivals right? Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. That each three of those sacred holy times are moments where that great joy is radiating very clearly in the consciousness of Israel, of the people of Israel. And that aspect of Shekhinah can be specially accessed on those three festivals. And then the large stone that's over the well, that is our Yetzer Hara. That is our evil urge. And again, want to talk about evil when we say Ra. A lot of the times we think about evil and our minds go to, Halloween horror. It goes to the incredible violence that we see in the world around us. It goes to these very intense places. But the way that the Hasidic masters talk about evil is that evil is a spectrum that can go certainly from those extreme things that we usually associate, but it can also be much milder that each one of us experiences when we are really focused on ourselves at the expense of other people around us. That can be a manifestation of evil. And again, that's not to say that focusing on ourselves is evil, but it's when it happens at the expense of what other people's experience consequences are to them, all of that. So evil can also be, again, part of that real self-focus is the idea of being right and not being open to hearing or listening to another. That's an aspect of evil. And certainly all of that spectrum can manifest, some of it just being in smaller choices that we make, and sometimes it can manifest in more harmful choices that we make. But regardless, the idea is that this Yetzer Hara, or this large stone that's on the well, is what is blocking the divine flow that's always present. So really, what he's talking about here, even though we're talking about it as kind of almost like externals, like there's a divine flow and then there's this part in us that blocks that, all of it is talking about human consciousness, right? God is God, and the blessing of God is always flowing, always coming through, always available. How we relate to that is what he's trying to hint at. And then he says, when Jacob saw Rachel, right? When Jacob saw Rachel, he parallels this. This is the joy of the bridegroom and the bride. And he parallels this joy of love and connection with also the festivals and with the Shekhinah. And really it is that love and that joy that's what motivates Jacob to remove the stone off the well to help, because it's for Rachel. And that's really I think the core teaching that I want us to really land with and work with is that it's really love and joy that's what allows us to overcome those barriers to divine blessing. And in one sense, you could say, well, is it the chicken or the egg? Meaning that do we, is it first being able to open up beyond our Yetzer Hara, the rock that's in the well, in order to receive and experience God's blessing of love and joy? Or is it love and joy that motivates us to expand beyond our own mishigas, to quote, use a technical term, our own drama, our own stress, our own all of that allows us to go through. And with all of these things, we can say yes to both sides of it. But I think the piece here is to be able to be more attentive to the possibility of joy in our life. And when we are aware of it, even in the smallest amount, to give our full attention to it. You know, if there's a little bit of music that makes us feel happy, go into it. Give yourself to it. Let that little bit of joy that comes from that music expand. Dance with it, move with it. Whatever it is, if there is a little piece where you feel a love for somebody, even in the smallest amount for yourself, actualize it, do it, take the extra time to express it and show it. All we need is a little bit of awareness of that love and joy and the choice, even if we're feeling contracted or yucky or whatever it is in the moment, to give our attention to it, to know that that is what's going to allow us to remove the stone off the well. That's what's going to motivate us. So let's take this into some practice. Find a comfortable place to sit, a position that you can be in for a period of time without moving around. And we'll start with a melody, this melody from Jerusalem that was actually written for one of the Sheva Brachot, one of the 7 blessings that's part of the wedding liturgy. So I figured since we're opening to joy, why not bring a little wedding melody? I die, 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 die. I die, die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, 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 die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, 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 die. Yai, die, 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 die. Yai, die, die. Try that in your home along with me. Yai, die, 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 die. Yai, die, die, die. Yai, die, 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 die. Yai, die, die, die. Yai, die, 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 die. Yai, die, die, die. Yai, die, 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 die. Yai, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, 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 die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, 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 die. Yai, die, 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 die. Yai, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, 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 die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, die, die. Yada, die, 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 die. Yai, die, 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 die. Yai, die, die. So let yourself settle into your body and your breath. And as you pay attention to the movement of breath, of the inhale that expands the chest and the belly, and then following with your attention the air as it leaves the body. Just notice the life force that radiates throughout your body. Notice that you don't have to make a choice to breathe, that the breath happens on its own. The movement of the inhale naturally moves into taking air into the body, life, blood to all of the cells. And then automatically the air is released, giving it back to the rest of the atmosphere. And then without even having to try, the inhale begins again. As you give your attention to the breath, really let go into it. Really feel the way that it sustains you. If you can open to a sense of joy, of just simcha, joy, and just being alive, in being breathed, in being sustained. You know, when we say the Shechianu blessing, we open to the presence of the divine, of the deepest source, and acknowledge the way that that source gives us life, sustains us, and helps us to be here now in this moment. And when we say that blessing, it's an expression of great joy, whether it's because of a simcha that we're at, because of a holiday, because of doing something for the first time. But the blessing can be said at any moment. At any moment, we can open to the joy of just being here. And as you pay attention to that movement of breath in the body and open to that joy of being alive and being sustained, being breathed, notice your heart area. You can even imagine that your breath is going in and out through that heart area. And with every breath that moves in and out of that heart area, feel your attention expand in all directions. In the place of the heart, there is no boundary. There is infinite space in every direction, beginning at the center of your chest, of your heart, and radiating out infinitely in every direction. And inward into your heart, to your center, infinitely in every direction. Let your attention open to that possibility of infinite space, inward and outward. In this spaciousness of open-heartedness, of love, of joy, infinite in every direction, turning outward, turning inward. There's space for everything. Any worries or fears or anxieties. Everything can just float in this open-hearted space. Because with this open-hearted love and joy, there's also understanding and compassion for whatever it is that's arising. It's almost as if that deep divine voice that radiates out of that infinite space can say to us, I know that it's hard. I know that it hurts. It's okay. And it's that love and joy space that not only can hold our own contractions, but also has space to hold others I'll be quiet now for a period of time, and I just invite all of us to continue to notice that experience of being sustained with the breath, to really breathe in and out of that heart area, opening to infinite space that flows outward from our center at the same time as infinite space that flows inward from our center. Hey, da, 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 da. Hi, da, da, ya, da, ya, da, ya, hi, da. Hi, da, 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 da. Hi, da, da, hi, da. Hi, da, 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 da. Hi, da, da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, 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 da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, da, da. Hey, da. Yada, da, 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 da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, 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 da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, da, da. Yada, da, 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 da. Hi, da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Good morning, Sandy and Sherry. Anything that anybody would like to share, either about the teaching or the practice? We did something a little bit different in the practice today. Um, how did that work for people? I'll just say another teaching from Meori Naim, which we were studying on Sunday on this parsha, is that when Jacob left Beersheba, it was really also talking about moving from the mind, from thought into speech. That there's a process that we all go through where thought has the potential to be so much more expansive. And as soon as we try to go ahead and put it into speech, we have to make choices about how we're going to try to talk about something that may be difficult to talk about. And so kind of that process of trying to actualize and be part of creation in the world through speech, in some sense, is a little bit of a limiting process and has a transition from thought to talk. So just want to recognize that. Yes, Maury.
Well, my mind was wandering through these kind of petty disputes I have with people in my, that I'm close to, and thinking, am I capable of ridding myself of this kind of pettiness? That's what I would call it, pettiness. And it's not that there isn't more to me than that, but how, I don't know how to say it. How high can I go? How, um, in I can visualize it, this kind of peacefulness and togetherness. And especially when I look at Susie's trees, that always helps me. I think I told you guys for a period of time, when I lived in Northern California, I lived in a community. It was a redwood forest. Anyway, that's a whole other kind of, does something to your mind. But anyway, so I do wonder, how good can I be?
Well, here's the thing, Maury, is you already are infinitely good. And I think this is an important thing that you're bringing up. And when you're saying, how do I get rid of the pettiness? Or how do I get rid of the way that my mind wants to contract around whatever it is in our personal relationships? And I think the practice, first of all, to try to approach it as, how do I get rid of this, is a way of denying what's true and alive in you, which is that, yeah, you're having some responses and some experiences in regards to things that are going on with other people, and those are real. I mean, what you're experiencing is real. So the practice is not really about getting rid of it, but the practice is about how to broaden the field of awareness. So, this piece that we were doing, which was about kind of almost visualizing infinite space in both directions, outward and inward, as a way of just trying to let the mind start to notice how expansive awareness can be, which is really infinite. So the more that we practice being able to practice that expansiveness, then when those petty things happen, like they were coming up in your meditation, you let them just be and float in that space. It's what you might call it as a balance of attention. Usually in our lives, our attention isn't balanced. It's very located and concentrated in whatever the stress that's going on, the pettiness, the whatever. We're totally identified in those little dramas that go on in our heads. So what we're asking to do is, okay, don't push away those dramas, but instead pay attention to more than just the drama, right? Pay attention that there's more space in any given moment in your own attention and mind than just the drama. And that way it's still present and it's still there, but you have a little bit more room to move, a little bit more sense to say, I don't have to identify so strongly with this. I can notice it. I can notice, I'm feeling triggered, or I'm feeling, whatever it is. And yet I'm gonna try to open to more space beyond this. And the more that we practice it in a meditation, the more that we practice having that space, letting those contractions of mind in our meditation float in that larger space, the more that we're going to start to find that larger space starts to translate when we're off the cushion, if you will, or not in the meditation. And then those still petty things are going to come up. They're still going to happen because there's something that you're needing to pay attention to. There's something that's real in that you need to address or identify. Maybe there's a need that's not being met with another person, or maybe there's something that you need to express or say that you haven't found a way to do it. And so it's just kind of like, whatever it is, it's only when you are able to be with it with more space that you get to understand a little bit more, okay, what's kind of at the bottom of this, and how might I want to respond? So
I think that's that's very helpful. Yeah, one, that there is usually there can be something deeper that you really need to express, or that I need to express, and also the fact that my space is much bigger than that, and holds more than that. But it is a practice.
That's for sure. Amen.
Thank you.
Other thoughts? Susie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in Soul Spark Shabbat, that the Sadiqedness, Rabbi, that you bring to the Soul Spark Shabbat this last Friday released me into joy that I was then able to experience with Maury in our dancing.
Came up and she was dancing. Woo!
And you gave me the space to do that, and I felt you were in the space with me. But it comes back to our Sadiq, who, what you offer in that service, and not just that service, but in particular, the permission and the freedom to be in touch with our joy and love is just so lovely.
Thank you, Susie. And I just, for whether you were at our Sunday session at the JCC or not, one of the things that we shared about there as we were learning the Meori 9, he was talking about what a tzaddik is, a righteous person. And one of the things that I think is a really important way to relate to these texts is that it's not a static state, that each one of us can have moments of being a tzaddik, right? Moments of holding that joy and that space and all of those in those moments. And sometimes we're there and sometimes we're not. It's not a fixed thing as it can sometimes be portrayed. So I really appreciate that, Susie. And I want to just put it back for all of us that each one of us has that opportunity to kind of hold that joy and hold that expansive space for each other and whatever it is. And part of, I think, what is significant for me this morning about Levi Yitzchak's teaching is that, it's rare, right? I'll just say that it's rare that that space you were identifying in Soul Spark, that really Soul Spark Shabbat, that very expansive, we'll call it an ecstatic space. I would say that ecstatic space is rare. There are environments that are specifically like the Soul Spark Shabbat that we create with music and everything else to create that space. But we don't have to wait for those spaces to happen, meaning that all you have to do is be in touch with a little spark of love, a little spark of joy, whatever it is. It can be something as normal as taking the walk with our dogs that we were talking about this morning. And instead of just holding it and being like, oh, that's really nice, and we kind of move along. Instead, bring our attention more fully there. Extend it a little bit more. Bring it in, let that joy that we penetrate us. Or if we feel a little love and appreciation for somebody, give our attention even more to that. Give space to that. Nurture that. Let that fill ourselves. Each one of those little moments that we have are gateways. I think it's either Isaiah or Ezekiel, but it says open for me, a space the size of a needle, and I will open for you a barn door in a sense, like a huge opening, which is almost like all you need to do is find that little piece and give your attention there, and it can open up even bigger. Yes, Ellen.
That is, as you know, because we spoke yesterday, a practice that I'm going to really utilize this coming weekend with family. And Sherry's laughing. And it's almost like, and I don't do this because most of my communication is through movement. It's kinesthetic, but like people which I really honor and kind of envy, those who are able to get up in the morning or at the end of the day, write gratitude for what that day. So that's finding that peace during the day that you can expand on. So, and so I basically, like I said yesterday, I'm going to work on that total expansion and to look beyond that little trigger point. And for the two people here who are out of towners, our Soul Spark is a Friday night Shabbat once a month that Rabbi Kavod introduced. I don't know how many years ago now. Is it 3 years ago?
Oh,
4 years ago? More.
Before the pandemic. So.
Oh, it was. That's right. Oh my goodness. I can't.
5 or 6. Yeah.
5 or 6 years. Oh my God, time just flies. But it is a very different kind of a Shabbat, and it is, the lights are dim, and there's lighting in a sacred space, and we don't use, you know, our normal liturgy so much as just singing, and as Susie said, dancing, those who want to. So it's a whole different experience, which I really do look forward to every month. So that's just to kind of explain to Ruth and Sylvia what we're talking about when we say Soul Spark.
And you can see it on live stream too. Sherry.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, Sherry, you gotta
Unmute.
Sherry, you gotta unmute. You gotta unmute there. There you go.
Sorry, I have to go.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, Sherry.
You know what? I wanted to add one thing. I've been doing this expanded practice because I learned it from David Baruch, my teacher. And every Shabbat after we've done the blessings, and we're just before we eat, we also go around and say, what is the nicest thing or things that have happened to you during the week? So it allows us to share those special moments with the people that we're making Shabbat with. And it's really very dear. And it, you know, that really sets me up for a nice Shabbat, but it also sets me up for a really nice week.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm gonna do that this Friday night as well.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Bye. Bye, Sherry.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and that it's, you know, this time is a time like every day, you know, a time of gratitude, and just a reminder that it's kind of who we are. You know, the word for being a Jew is a Yehudi, and Yehudi shares the same root as Hoda'ah or Lehodot, which means to give thanks. So being a Yehudi actually literally means one who gives thanks. So it's core to our own identity, and I wish us all to live it fully this week and beyond. Good to see everybody.
Yes. Thank you.